Hey guys, welcome to the Still Moving podcast with Dom and Toby. We're both two good friends living out our freelance photography and filmmaking careers, and we want to take some time out to share the highs and lows and the behind the scenes of what that looks like day to day. Hope you enjoy.
We're back.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Oh, it's good to see you again, man.
Oh, mate, great to see you again.
If you're listening to the last one, you will notice that we haven't changed clothes and we are in the same place. That is because, royally, we are doing another podcast straight after the other one.
We're doubling up, guys. We're doubling up.
That's a pretty good Ramsay impression. That is because, royally, we are doing it straight after the other. Now, beautiful.
No, you see, you need to say now beautiful and then you get right into character because now I can hear it.
Beautiful. Get your salmon beautifully. Fillet salmon.
Welcome back to the podcast today, Toby.
Welcome back to the podcast. I can't do it anymore. I've lost it. Anyway,
welcome back, everyone. It's good to see you, even though we can't see you. Oh,
that is
Toby,
the nature of a podcast, isn't it? Really?
What's happened since the last time we saw you?
What's happened? Well, I have checked my WhatsApp. Big things on the WhatsApp.
Big things on our WhatsApp.
And I've had a message from Joshua Smith laughing at the screenshot of us doing this. Thanks, Josh. And yeah, not much, man. I'm feeling good. I've got my Ashbeck English Natural Mineral Water sparkling with me, which is a nice way of saying bubbles from Tesco. And,
I don't actually like sparkling water.
Do you not?
No, I mean, do you know what? My German heritage, it's quite normal to have sparkling water. I feel like sparkling water is actually quite European, isn't it?
It's a very European thing. I feel like when you go out for dinner in Europe, it elevates the experience. You're like, yeah, I'll take a bottle of sparkling water.
It doesn't.
You know what time it is? Do you know what I mean?
It doesn't. It's like, aqua con gas. No thanks.
Just sounds like a bad stomach upset afterwards, doesn't it?
It just sounds very unhydrating and disgusting.
But anyway, things are good, dude. I'm in Thornbury, which is in North Bristol, which is where I live. Dom, where are you, mate? How's things with you?
I'm in Bath. Bath's great. If anyone's been to... Do you know what? Bath's that sort of place where, like, everyone's heard of Bath.
That is true.
Don't you think? It's like every time... I don't know. I could literally be in, like, Montenegro in the mountains. Do they have mountains in Montenegro?
Yeah, many.
And someone would come up to me and go, where do you live? And I'd say Bath. And they'd go, oh, Roman baths. You know, it's just...
standard.
It's a great place.
You're like, yeah, Roman baths. Have you ever been there? No. Yeah, Soph actually gives me a lot of slack about...
Is that soap?
Yeah. No, she gives me a lot of
Toby
flack.
Toby doesn't actually have a wife. He just has a dog.
I'm not going to comment on that because that is extremely rude.
Oh, no,
So
I didn't mean that.
baby.
I didn't mean that. And
Yeah, that's fine. Don't worry about it, mate.
And the thing is, you can play it back and you'll understand it was all innocent.
It was all a dream. Anyway, yeah, I haven't taken her to the Roman baths and she is very upset about that. So I do need to do that once we're out of tier 4, tier 5, whatever tier we're in.
To the actual Roman baths, like the historic
Bath,
part.
the Roman baths.
Oh, have you been?
Many a time. Started at primary school going there and I haven't stopped going since, really, for various occasions. Last one was a wedding that we shot together. Maybe it was us together. I can't remember.
Oh, no, it wasn't.
Do you know what? It's a wedding where I just bought the 5D Mark IV.
Oh, I remember.
I hadn't calibrated it. And I did the group shots for the wedding and they were all soft. It was really not one of my finest moments. It was very embarrassing and I had a very unhappy client about it. And it was one of those times when I was, they were in their grounds to have requested some money back, but they very gracefully didn't. But it wasn't good. I was very embarrassed.
Mate, that's tough. That's
Anyway,
tough.
how did we get there? I'm so sorry, everyone. So sorry.
No, please don't apologize, Toby. I love it. Today we thought we would we'd tackle, well, not tackle, because what we thought we would do is
have a chat,
have a chinwag, but talk about comparison. Something that Toby and I have both dealt with in various ways and experienced in many ways, and then I'm sure many people listening have, to be honest, in any area of your life, right? Like not just necessarily as a creative, but man, just in everything. Comparison is an absolute thief of joy. And we just wanted to share some thoughts, experiences, and just chat about comparison. So that's what you're in for today. You're in for a treat.
In for a treat. You know what? It was on about an hour ago when we did the first podcast.
Oh, God.
One of us mentioned
a week ago.
It was now. And we came off the podcast, we were like, oh, that's going to be such a good subject to talk about, doing one on comparison, because everyone goes through it. It's one of those really annoying buzzwords now because it's so widely talked about, and it often links to social media, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But I think as well, there is something so valid about it because it really can disrupt your career. It can really disrupt your peace. I'm all about keeping your peace and, keeping your mind in a good place. And I think, there's inspiration and there's comparison. And I think they have similar attributes to them, but both have very different effects. And, we could sit here and say like all these things about comparison, but the reality is, I was dealing with it this morning or, probably yesterday. I think every single day at some point I'm probably going to be coming up against it. And it's such a normal daily thing, I think, for so many people. And it's all well and good saying, oh yeah, comparison kills, which in essence is true. But I think just talking about it, having a bit of a conversation, I think it'd probably be helpful just for us, just to have a chat about it.
Oh, mate, open up, man. Open
Jealousy
up your heart.
Comparison.
What who have you been comparing yourself to recently? No, I'm joking.
Many people.
just completely expose each other.
Sometimes look at myself past Toby's and I get jealous. I'm like, well, fantastic.
Hey, that's interesting.
Yeah, kind of wasn't true though.
Oh. So,
there are points though, seriously, when I look back and I was like, man, I had it good then. I mean, I count myself very, very privileged, very blessed in the life that I've got. But I do look back and I'm like, there's moments when I'm thinking, man, I was 19, I was earning good money for a 19-year-old doing photography. And why didn't I spend more money on gear? Like, I went traveling and had fun, and that's all amazing. That really started part of my career. But I'm like, why didn't I just buy more gear to help me with stuff?
Yeah.
Like, for the future. There's bills now. Got to be covering the bills.
Yeah, man. It's like looking back and being like, wow, it was going good. And now I'm really scared that it won't go good anymore. It's like, it's all downhill from here.
It's not true, but it feels like it sometimes, doesn't it?
That's it. Yeah, man.
We've both had there's been similarities in our journeys with comparison, I think, as friends. And then I think probably differently because both our mediums of expression are different. Dom, you being a cinematographer and a DOP and a director, me being a photographer, they're actually two very different worlds, I think. I think they have crossover for sure. I think as photographers, we're required more to be able to do moving image now. But, mate, why don't you just dive in a little bit? Like, because we've had so many chats about this, but,
yeah,
what tell us about some of your journey with comparison, that sort of tension in your life.
For sure.
Go for it, bro. Bring us in.
Come on in, kids. Let's listen to Daddy.
That got really weird really quick. When you say things on podcasts now, you're like, oh, I don't know if I can actually say that.
Oh, you can. You can say that.
Yeah, if you listen to Joe Rogan's podcast, you can say anything you want.
You just have to put an R. You have to put an R next to your thing, and it's fine. Comparison, man. I mean, it's such a big topic. Where do you start? Where do you begin? I mean, I remember like before we would openly have conversations about this, and actually before like my close now circle of friends that that we journey with, our like community of friends. I don't think it was something that was ever really spoken about, to be honest. Like it never even crossed my mind. Like you said, now it's like a buzzword. It's like comparisons, it's kind of one of those things where it's like you can't not be aware of it or like of the concept of it. But at the time, being a young filmmaker, which I still am, it was like I never even had this concept of what comparison was. I just knew that I would see other people doing things that didn't necessarily make me feel like bad or like I don't want to do it, but would almost put me in this position of like, I need to get better. I need to do better. My wife has this saying, be better, do better. It's not a good saying. She beats herself up and says that. She won't like that I've said that. But
shout out to Martha Doring.
Shout out to Martha, who is currently carrying my child in her belly.
A legend.
I thought you were saying.
guys
I
are
thought you were
with
saying. I thought you were saying what then, as if like, wait, what? Oh, that's how I tell you.
Big news, big news.
Big news. Wow. Yeah, man. And it's like, I don't know. For me, honestly, I think the comparison started like watching people like Casey Neistat on YouTube. You know,
Yeah, that's
and
real.
like, and Fun for Louis, and you know, I was. It's like all the insecurities come out now of like I was one of those like big, no, not insecurities. Like guilty pleasures come out. Yeah, that's it. Where you're like, I loved watching Zoella. No, like, man, I watch so much YouTube, and actually watching people like, Casey Neistat, all the big guys, all these people who were living lives to their fullest. I was like, man, I'm not living life at all. Like, I'm sat, you know, probably at the time in Peasdown or Chippenham, in my bedroom. I'd spend more time watching them live their life and have like the best life ever than living my own life and enjoying my own life. Not to be deep about it. It wasn't like it wasn't times where I was like, oh man, I'm really struggling. But it was kind of like that realization where I'm like, wow, like I do feel like that, you know, like I feel like I'm watching other people live a life that I want to live. And
Has a massive effect on mental health.
Oh, mate, hugely. And it's living up to I wanted to live up to expectations and realities that weren't actually like true for me or sometimes weren't even true. Like talking about like social media, YouTube, Instagram and stuff, it's like we all know this, like this is like a hot topic now, isn't it, these days? But like living up to that pressure of lives that aren't true, you know, whether it's airbrushed pictures or whether it's, I don't know, seeing someone's stories of like, you know, these amazing days they're having, travels they're always on. You don't see the reality to it, you know, you don't see the moments in between. You only see 10-second highlights of their day, which are perfect and curated. And so it's kind of that concept of like you're living up to an expectation, you're living up to this reality. You're comparing your life to reality that actually isn't necessarily real. And so, yeah, man, I think that's where it started. I mean, like, man, it even sometimes like happens between like friends, like between us. I remember like sometimes seeing stuff that you're doing and I'm like, man, Toby's doing it. He's doing it all and I'm not doing it. And, and you know, that runs into, like you just said, jealousy as well of like, why is he doing it and why don't I get to do it? You know, I'm behind the coffee bar and Toby's doing what he wants to do, you know? Yeah, man. I think it's like, it's one of those things, isn't it? It's like everyone, that whole concept of like everyone's in their own lane, in their own, like they're all in their own, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm just gonna backtrack.
No, you're right, man. Their own lane. For sure.
Yeah, like everyone's kind of in their own lane, and it's funny, isn't it? Like you're comparing. I mean, comparison in itself is like just even the simplicity of comparing. And we touched on this in the last podcast about like comparing yourself to someone who's doing what you want to do and who may be and who looks as though they are ahead of what you're doing. For instance, you know, big directors on Hollywood movies to me would be that, right? And it's like, how are you doing that? Like, you're doing what I want to do. And so I craft and I create in ways that I want to try and like look like what they're doing, or at least I get inspired by it. And I think that's another part of like comparison, isn't it? It's like healthy comparison is like inspiration, like turning that into something where it's like, actually, I kind of want to be doing what you're doing and I'm almost jealous of it, but I'm going to be inspired by that and push a little harder.
Yes. You're looking forward to where someone is currently recognizing the distance of years between you.
Right.
And being like, that's giving me motivation to work.
Right.
And to go for it. And that's healthy.
Right. And like perspective, you touched on it again in the last podcast, is like, it's such a massive thing, man. Like if you think about it, if someone's 2 years ahead of you in their career and even just in life, and they're doing, you know, they're doing what you want to do, they are always literally going to be 2 years ahead of you in time. Yeah. Like it's just a fact, right? And without the perspective of seeing where you've come from, you'll never realize that actually you're really growing and you're actually getting much closer towards what they're doing, you know? And the comparison is this sort of false sense of like, I'm not achieving, I'm not getting to what I want to get to, or they're way ahead of me when, you know, they're not, in some simple way. I don't know. Those are just some ramblings.
Mate, it's so good. And I think, because really ultimately what comparison leads you into is a place of fantasy. It's kind of, your mind can go somewhere which your life will not lead to in the immediate effect. Like, and you start imagining your life, oh man, if I was on that shoot in the Italian mountains right now with that crew and they're doing that brief and earning that money, like,
For sure.
oh man, there's nothing I want more. But then you have to realize, like, if I've watched photographers doing that, there's and one of them's a really good friend of mine, and you're like, wait, this dude is like late 30s, mid 40s. I don't know how old they are, but they've got time on me. Like, do you know what I mean? They've got like a good 10, 15 years ahead of where I'm at. And like me and you both know, and if you work in the creative kind of freelance sphere, you'll know that a year is a long time in a creative career, and there's a lot of progression that happens in that.
For sure.
And I think you constantly have to come back to that place of like, it's not an adequate comparison.
For sure.
Because they've got so many years on you.
For sure. I remember watching Instagrammers who would, like, every time they would go away, they would like shoot like a video of their time away.
Mm-hmm.
And like, kind of like one of those like highlight videos where like it would like go on their like feed and you would see them in like Spain and it would all be shot with drones and all this crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like, for me, like my direction as a filmmaker, like my dream is to be on like feature films, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sat there like scrolling on Instagram and I'm like looking at these videos and it makes me feel terrible. I'm sat at home. I'm not there. Two, when I go on holiday, I don't shoot videos. I just enjoy my holiday. But am I not making the most time of my holiday? Should I be shooting videos? Otherwise, I'm not a good filmmaker. I remember having this moment once where I was just like, I don't want to be like that kind of filmmaker. I don't want to be an Instagram filmmaker or like a travel filmmaker in that way. That's not actually where my trajectory is. Right. I'm like,
the external parameters of it.
Think about like my bigger goal is like, that's not what I'm doing. And like, that doesn't like nullify the fact that that's a really fun thing to do and like people should do it and post it. Absolutely. But it was more from my point of view of being like, I'd look at it and be like, oh man, well that means when I go away, I should be filming. And so I'd go away, I'd film, I'd like edit some video that looks terrible because I actually didn't want to do it. I'd like not post it because I'd never wanted to do it in the first place. It looks bad. And I wouldn't enjoy it. I wouldn't have enjoyed my trip that I just had.
You got your time robbed from you from trying to do it.
All because I saw someone else's post and was like, well, and again, that kind of comes back to lanes, right? It's like, I'm getting distracted. I'm like swerving off course there by seeing something that someone else is doing and thinking I've got to do it. But I'm like, nah, like,
yeah.
And it's so easy. I say that like as if it's like, as if I'm like, and all you got to do is know this and you're fine. It's like, man, I still do it today, even though I know it. Do you know what I mean? Even though I'm aware of it. Yeah.
For sure, man. I feel like it's also, it feeds the desire for success. Like, I feel like that's insatiable. Like, I know enough about me to know I have an insatiable desire for success. And I have to really be on top of it. So if I'm watching, like you say, when I was in 1920, I'd follow a ton of YouTubers who would do, travel videos. They'd be getting on a plane every 2 or 3 days. They would, there's constant stimulation, constant success, constant brand deals. Yeah. And, they've worked an awful long time to get there. But then in me personally, if we're really taking a deep dive into your inner world, you're like, actually in me, there's something very deep there of, I want my level of success to be filled up. I want the feeling of success and to be seen as successful. I want people to admire me. And I think that can be held healthily and it can be held really unhealthily. And I think I've definitely been on both ends of the spectrum there. And I think it's a seesaw as well, because I know still inside of me, when I see, what gets me, like what really gets me in comparison is when someone's the same age as me and they're doing better.
Oh man.
That creates a furious jealousy, which is really not good for me. And I know that's not good for me. And that's where Instagram becomes really dangerous for me. And that's when kind of that area becomes actually really damaging to my day to day.
Yeah.
And I have to make a choice. Like, in those moments of jealousy, celebration of someone else's success will break the neck of jealousy. It's like a personal mantra to me.
Come on.
Of being like, if I can celebrate another person who's the same age as me, who is, working just as hard in a different area, but still doing photography and receiving extraordinary success. Yes, I can go down and be like, man, like I haven't given enough, or I can be like, that's amazing, and I want to promote you, because I think once you start to promote people, that really does break that neck of jealousy of being like, because you come back to that place of like, I've got nothing to lose, I've got nothing to protect, and I've got nothing to prove. So, which is effectively true. Like, to keep myself in a place of health, that's the kind of point I have to stay at. Nothing to prove, nothing to lose, nothing to protect, which is totally ripped from our friend Josh. But I mean, you know, it's so true.
Big up, Josh.
Big up, Josh.
Yeah, man. No, that is so good. That is so, yeah. That is so important. I think what you just said then about, it's gone from my mind now.
Mate, I was going to ask you a back question on that.
Oh, go on.
How do you, in those moments of just absolute furious jealousy, and you know what I mean when I say that, like you can feel it inside. It's like a knot in your stomach.
I feel it now looking at your frame.
Everything in you just wants to be doing what that person's doing. Everything in you wants to be earning that money. Like, maybe it's not money. For me, it's often a financial thing. I'm like, I know that they'll be getting paid big time for that. Like, I want that success. But for you, how do you handle that, man? What's your response to that?
Wow.
That's a really deep question. I'm sorry. We're going for a deep dive today, guys.
Oh man, do you know what? I don't really know. I think like,
just be honest.
Yeah, I think like thanks, Topes. I was gonna lie, but now that you said that, I'll tell the truth. How do I feel about that? I think honestly, like that what you just described then is like such a real feeling, like even today, right? Like, I mean, man, like there's been shoots that like I know I was in consideration for getting, and then I didn't get it, and then someone else has done it.
Oh, we can talk about a whole other section of that.
And I'm like, it's happened recently actually to me, and I'm like, I can't help, you know. I mean, man, like, yeah. You like what you just described then. It's like this like furious like, okay, I get it, cool, right? Like I'm not good enough. Like I'm like my filmmaking isn't good enough, and whatever.
But hilariously, in that context, that often isn't the truth of like
No.
that isn't the actual conclusion that's come from the client's end, right? They're like, no, you are enough.
We did have the budget.
It's great. We just gone a different direction for the style,
right?
But I know exactly that feeling because I relate to that massively, mate.
It's real. I think for me, I feel like my ideal situation of how I would deal with it, and how I feel like maybe 60% of the time I deal with it is actually using it as fuel, and and not in and I feel like that can turn quite unhealthy quite quickly, of like, well, everything I see makes me just do, and I'm just made for doing, and like here's another thing of ripping from Josh is like, you're a human being, not a human doing, right? Or maybe that's not ripped from him, but that, you know, it's like,
probably is.
It probably is. If it's a good saying, it's his. But I don't know, like that concept of like, I mean, my thing is like, you see someone else who's done it and who's basically like making it in what you, bro. There's a guy out there at the moment who's got the same name as me without the G at the end, so it's Dominic Dorin. If he's listening, big shout out to you, right? I'm big on drum and bass, right, and shooting music videos for drum and bass people. He's killing it on the drum and bass music videos. He's a filmmaker, like director, DOP, and his name is one letter short of mine.
What the flip? I gotta look this dude up.
I honestly, Ed, we've mentioned Ed before. He sent it to me. I honestly, that moment of seeing that, like, that's an extreme level of comparison and jealousy. But I was like, oh my goodness, this guy is literally doing it, right?
Oh my
like,
gosh.
Have you found him? He's an incredible photographer as well, actually. I shouldn't be
crazy.
Weird, right?
That's crazy.
So weird. Anyway, so
I love that.
It was like all the stars aligned, and I was like, what? Like, how is there this person who's like almost me, but with one letter short? Or I'm almost him with one letter too many. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's like
So weird.
It's using it as fuel. I think it's not using it as fuel in an unhealthy way where it's like, oh man, like now I just have to do, and I have to do better, and I have to be better, and all sorts of stuff. But just just kind of like using it as like, okay, I feel this desire in me that basically is saying, oh, I want that because I want to create. Like I see something that someone else is doing and I feel a bit jealous because I'm like, that's because I know I want to do it, which isn't a bad thing. I don't think. I think that shows passion, right? That shows like a desire to create things. And like you described, in the last podcast, we're both hardworking people who enjoy pushing for things, and we're lucky because we enjoy doing what we're doing. And and so it's like it's almost taking that and just like turning it into something that's like it's positive for what I'm doing in that moment, right? So for instance, it's like, I don't know, like you see like it's like this jealousy of like, oh man, that's what I want to be doing, but I've got this like edit to do and I don't want to do it. But if I do this edit really well and get it done, and actually instead of procrastinating on it, I'm going to be one step closer to being able to do what I want to do, right?
Yeah.
I literally had it yesterday.
Being faithful with what's in front of you.
And it's like, man, I don't want to do this edit. I don't want to do it. I hate editing. Disclaimer. I hate
But you're
it.
one of the best.
Unfortunately, I've been said to be a very quick and good editor. I put myself in my own position that I'm my own worst enemy. But yeah, like that concept of like, man, I was like sat in front of this edit the other day and I was like I, side passion of mine is producing music. I love producing music, like a bit of drum and bass. And I was watching these videos of these people produce. What's that?
Plug.
Catch me on SoundCloud. And I was like watching these like producers. I just watch YouTube videos of like tutorials of people producing stuff. And I was literally sat there and I was like, not jealous. I guess this is slightly jealousy, but it's that similar concept of like, all I want to do right now is do that. I don't want to do this. And so like it was like. And I know I have to get this edit done, but I know I can very quickly just be like, I'm not going to do my edit today. I'm just going to make music and just pretend that I don't have anything to do.
Yeah.
But then I turned it from that. I like had this moment where I was like, no, if you get this edit done now and you finish it really well today, then tomorrow you have all day to really fully enjoy doing what you're doing, And that's a little bit off what we were talking about. But that kind of same concept, I think, for me is like, I don't know. That's probably where I try and direct my energy to when I feel that like crazy, like
yeah, it's still so good. It's like how you channel it, isn't it? Because it's still emotion stored up. You just got to figure out where you're going to put it.
And it's hard, man. Like when you're in the moment and feeling it, like sometimes you just gotta leave it. Do you know
what I did, man?
Go on.
With those sort of emotions, I relate 100% to what you're saying, and I know there'll be people that also relate 100%. Is when I did live in Bath, I had a gym membership. Plug. And
what's the plug? Is that our next sponsor?
Gym membership. I don't anymore. It's very sad. And I'd go like, we keep talking about Josh. Josh Smith at Joshua Luke Smith is one of our best mates, and he
mate, give him a follow.
He's a very inspirational dude. He lives very well.
Follow this guy.
And lives very disciplined, good life. And Josh inspired me to go to the gym, so I joined the gym. I'm going like 4 times a week. It's kind of my rhythm that I was trying to do. 3 times was the least, 5 times would be the most. And loving it. And I did it because it was so good for my mental health. And there'd be days when I would, this is real. I'd be sitting on my desk and I just finished up a big shoot or a shoot, doesn't have to be big, or just, a significant booking, and I'm done. And now I'm like waiting constantly at what's the next thing? Or what's the next thing? I'm waiting for an email to come in, like the constant thing. Like often on Instagram, it can look like people are busy all the time. And I think the perception of busyness is actually quite healthy from a marketing perspective. But I think from an interpersonal perspective, it can be really difficult to navigate. So I'd be like constantly waiting. And I found going to the gym, 4:30 would hit. I'm kind of had my afternoon kind of like just doing little bits and bobs, but there's that constant inner thing of like where to channel these emotions of jealousy or impatience. And do you know what, man? Working out was so helpful for that. Just going to a HIIT session in a class and just absolutely, go for it and give it my best. And I'd come out feeling so replenished in my mental space.
Yeah.
Exercise really helped.
Redirecting that energy you got.
Energy.
Redirect me.
But yeah, mate, I totally relate to everything you're saying. And I think as well, it's hard, isn't it? Because often we compare ourselves to people and there's unfair advantage. We all have unfair advantages. I grew up in a home with 2 parents who did very well in their own creative careers, and they really supported me in going full-time very early on. There was no pressure to go to university. We had a very stable house. They earned fine, so we lived well and very privileged lives, I think. in a beautiful city, and I've got space to discover my own creativity now, and they're letting me live rent free, which is my unfair advantage. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's little things that kind of come up there, which give other people their different points to be able to run faster. I think.
For sure.
And it's hard to know that context when you're comparing your life to someone else, you know.
For sure. I think when you were touching on it earlier about like success, like this word success, and like, you know, comparing your life on like others' success and what success means. What for you? Again, big question here, Tobes. What is what does success mean like for you in like in life, in your career? Like, what does that look like for you?
Oh, I think I'd compartmentalize that pretty heavily, because I know enough about me now to know that if I put success entirely into a work context, I'll miss so much of life. I think success, it definitely revolves around family and how I treat my wife. I think is probably my biggest thing, you know. I think, how have I treated my wife? How am I going to raise my family? Diligence in getting a house for us, you know, and stuff like that. Or just, I don't know, man. Success, it can't be about stuff, because at the end of the day, like, we're going to get to 80, and what I don't want to do is like, it's, you know, it's cliche. It happens all the time. People get divorced for this stuff. You put your career before your marriage, or you put your career before your relationships, and those things crumble around you because you've focused and channeled all of that energy into it.
Yeah. And
it's not a recipe for success. You'll finish your life feeling a sense of failure, I would have thought. Like, in that sense, like, I gave everything to this, I earned a lot of money, but I lost everything that meant anything. Do you know what I mean? Because no one's going to care, like, at 60 to 80 years old, unless, like, I've had some sort of remarkable career, which, you know, that might not happen. Like, no one's going to care anymore. Like, no one's going to be inquiring for my services. No one's going to look at my Instagram. You know, there'll be someone else. There'll be many other people. And all I have left is Sophia, hopefully my kids, and, you know, the legacy that I've built around me within relationships. So I think that will be the defining level of success. I think for me, being able to hand on an inheritance to my children's children and dying knowing that I've done that and set that up for them, I think that for me would bring me a sense of completion and success.
So good, mate.
I think.
So what would I class success? Lots of money.
Sorry, mate.
Lots of.
Yeah.
Gone.
So Dom, how would you class success, mate?
Brilliant. So glad you asked, mate. Just tons of money, massive house, done.
Tons of money, massive house. Doesn't really matter if Martha came along for the ride or not.
Who?
Shout out to Martha Doring.
Big shout out to her. Mate, I'm so glad you answered like that. So good. So
Big
good.
On WhatsApp.
Big things on a WhatsApp.
Oh man, it's good things. Do you think, like, I'm trying to think of like other things we could talk about within this subject, because it's so broad. But I think you just got to keep good rhythms, right? Because I think for me and for so many other people, the main source of this comparison subject is unfortunately Instagram.
It 100% is.
And I feel like I've tried everything with the Instagram. I've deleted it from my phone. I've taken a 3 months off. I've taken a month off.
Is it off your phone now? You don't have it on your phone right now?
Last week, I did a full week of it not on my phone, and I just used my desktop, which has actually been a game changer, because Facebook have got the Creator Studio now, which means you can schedule all your posts and do all the interaction on your desktop, which is amazing. So you don't actually need the phone anymore to do it. And Instagram have introduced a new app called Threads, which means you can do your stories and DMs without going on Instagram, which is amazing.
Game changer.
They're fully aware of it. I'm not even I'm plugging them, but I'm not an ambassador. But, you know, Instagram hit me up. But
verify this boy. Verify.
Put that blue tick next to my name, man.
Yeah, it kills comparison and all that sort of stuff, and it's really bad for you. But also, could I get a blue tick next to my name?
It's all I want.
It's double standards is what it is.
Double standards, bro. But yeah, I think that finding what's right for me has been good. I think I'm hopefully moving into this year being fully on desktop with Instagram, because then, like, it does become, you can just scroll through at your own leisure, which isn't interrupting when you're in bed or when you wake up, or all the classic things which are just notoriously unhealthy for your headspace. And I know they're bad for my headspace, and I think I always feel a lot better when I haven't been on it for a long time.
For
which
sure.
is so ironic, but then there's like an insatiable desire to be on it, which is just the weirdest thing, which means it's an addiction.
Yeah.
Like, let's call it what it is. It's a horrendous addiction.
For sure. What are there other things like for you that you find like day to day that you're quite aware of, that if you kind of get yourself Instagram's obviously like a key one, but are there other things that like you try and steer clear of, just like from that like mental health perspective? I know, for instance, for me it's like I'm not clicking on Casey Neistat's videos 24/7 and sitting and binging. Like, are there things for you that like it could even be practical, that it's like, man, I just do this because this really helps me?
Oh yeah, man, for sure. I relate to that thing. Like when we were 19, 20, there was Ben Brown and Fun for Louis, all those guys. I'd have to be really careful about how much of that I watched because it was costing me, because I was booking flights and going into debt for them. That's a whole nother video. And let's go talk about debt. Let's do that.
Podcast number 3, debt.
Yeah, debt. And yeah, for sure. I think for me, I'm a person of faith. I do believe in God, and I've been brought up like that. But really, since then, built my own personal journey with that whole thing. And for me, it's been journaling has been really good for my headspace. I think just I don't have a really regular rhythm of it. It would, in my perfect mind, I would like to, but realistically, it's once or twice a month now. Kind of sitting down with my notepad, writing things that are kind of in my space, in my headspace. I feel like in those moments as well, when everything's really like jumbled up inside, and you're just in total spin out, just downward spiral of like a thought, something you're thinking about, you're jealous or like angry at someone or something. Just journaling is so helpful. Just kind of get it all out unedited. You can delete it afterwards if you want to, but I think that's great. And I think, surrounding yourself with the people, good people that have their heads screwed on,
for sure,
and that you can really trust and have, your best interests at heart. I think we're very fortunate to have such amazing people here in Bath that we're just really tight with and really close to, and, choose your people. I think that's pretty valid. Do you say, bro?
Oh mate, big thing, big time, big thing, big time,
big things in the big time.
Man, I'm what's going on? 100% on that like people, surrounding yourself with the right people. Like it's so obvious. It's so like it's glaringly obvious, but it's also really not. Like you become who you're around, like massively. Like, man, I remember being in like primary school and just other areas of my life, just not being in the right group of people, right? And it really affects what you believe, what your outlook is, like the way that you like what you see, and actually finding your tribe and finding the people that you're gonna like do this with. I mean, for instance, you and me, man. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, we've been able to journey things. We get it. We if anything, we kind of push each other in the right ways. Such a valid and important point, I think.
Yeah, I think it's so good, especially being in freelance careers. I think we're quite lucky in that prospect because we're surrounded by, we've got me and you as mates, but we've also got other mates in Bath who are doing similar things. It's quite a growing community, but there are a lot of folks who don't have that and don't have those people in town that they can just go and grab a flat white with and just have a chat, about kind of how things are going. And the reality of carving your own path is tough, I think. And I think having that kind of personal connection that isn't from Instagram is probably, I think it's really healthy. It's really good.
Yeah, for sure. I think on that Instagram like topic of like seeing kind of actually circling back a little bit to what you said earlier about like how would you deal with like the jealousy, like what do you do as like what's your response? I think on Instagram, like for me, a really like healthy thing to do, sometimes I might not feel it, but I see a post that I know makes me jealous, or I just wish I'd done it or whatever. I comment and say, great job, man, this looks so good.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Like, you take it at the head.
And you're just like, there's something so freeing about it. Like, you know,
celebrate.
It's like it's the celebrate. Like, what did you say earlier? Like celebration. You said something about
celebration breaks the neck of jealousy.
Man, 100% does.
Sometimes it doesn't, because sometimes you're really jealous.
Oh yeah, right. But like, it's the start, right? It's the start,
Yeah.
and it's channeling the energy of like that negativity into something that's positive. Like, I'm jealous of this because it's really good, and that's a fact, right?
Sorry.
Teething
Sorry,
problems,
mate, you're in
teething
deep conversation there.
Forget about it. Forget about it. No, but you know, channeling that negative energy into something positive, and like,
yeah,
you know, like you know, if you're jealous of something, it's because it's good. It's because you know, the fact is it's good, and you wish you did it. Fine, that's cool. So if anything,
gotta take it as constructive.
Saying well done, good job.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard, but it pays off, I think.
So good, man.
May,
this has been
so
great,
good.
bro.
It's been great, bro.
Doing great, bro. How long was that? How long have we been recording for now?
No, we're in 40 minutes in deep. We can wrap it up there. Save some for the other episodes.
I think so, mate. But bro, it's good to chat to you. You can catch Domin at _Dominic. No, at.
I said this was going to be a problem.
It's at Dominic _Doring.
Boom. And you can get Toby on at _Toby Mitchell.
Yes. Send us questions, thoughts, things to discuss. We'd love to know how you found this podcast and kind of any talking points. I think knowing that other people are relating to certain things is helpful, and it's all nice to know that we're in stuff together. So let us know if you've got any questions or things you'd like to have discussed. I think we're looking to do this. It's good fun. And yeah, catch you on the next one.
In a bit.
Cheers, bro.
Cheers, mate.